Hello, good afternoon and welcome. We'll wait just a couple of minutes more before getting started, as many people are joining now and we have to accept them in the meeting room. But wherever you are, either here on Microsoft Teams or on YouTube or on Facebook, where we are streaming and sharing this online event, you're very welcome. I'm very happy that you're joining so numerous. As a housekeeping announcements, please do use the chats from wherever platform you're connecting, and ask us any questions you may want to ask. And of course, if you have anything to share or comments for us, please do use the chat. And as many of you are really experts and have many stories and resources or practices to share. And very shortly we will get started. Make yourself comfortable, and please do write in the chat where you're connecting from. If you want to share how the weather is, that's also fine. Here in Brussels, we had a wonderful day. Now it's about to get night time, but we are grateful for what we had so far. Great, I see some more people are joining. It's also nice to see some known faces, known names, and many new ones as well. So I'm sure this topic is really something that we all need to discuss about right now. All right, time to start. I will get going so I don't steal any time from the other speakers and participants that will share their stories with us today. My name is Tommaso Della Vecchia and I work for European Schoolnet, and I'm very, very happy to have the chance to share this online event with you today. I'm very happy because the topic that we are covering is makerspaces in schools, as you know, and they touch upon all that nice interactive teaching and learning that we want to see and do more and more, especially now that in many cases we are forced to go to remote or hybrid teaching modes. So we'll be together for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. If you followed this morning session, we dedicated that one a bit more to the policy level, a bit more to analyzing and understanding the context and the pedagogical meaning of a makerspace in the school. In this afternoon session, we want to get a bit more into practicalities, focus a bit more on hindrances, challenges that we face when we set up a learning space such as a makerspace or a fab lab in a school, and we want to try to give you some examples and ideas and hints and tricks really for your own path in your school or in your region or in your country, depending of course of the type of organization you represent. I know today with us there are teachers, there are edtech providers, there are coordinators of makerspaces, of programs, trainers, experts. So it's a very diverse group, and please do contribute to the discussion as well. In the morning, as mentioned, we focus a bit more on policy, now on practice. Why is that? Why are we organizing this event? This is also one of the reasons. So recently, the Interactive Classroom Working Group, which is a group of Ministries of Education that work together with European Schoolnet to investigate and promote innovative teaching practices, managed to publish some outputs after a long work of investigation done on makerspaces on school. This is mainly formed by these practical guidelines. So these are makerspaces in schools, practical guidelines for school leaders and teachers that explain to you, to anybody, how to set up such learning space, a makerspace in a school, and how to operate that most effectively. So we think you might find this publication very inspiring and useful, and it's of course open to anybody to take and being inspired by that. The working group counts several countries, as I listed in this slide for your reference. So Italy, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Belgium, Turkey, Ireland, Luxembourg, Portugal, and Austria. They all contributed to this work. And as part of this effort, we also collected 16 case studies for as many schools in these countries. So there's not just the guidelines, you have actually also access to all these examples where you can see how makerspaces were built and are used in schools. And I take the chance also to thank the main author of the guidelines, Jill Attewell, which I hope is also with us today and this afternoon, who so nicely managed to put together these documents with so many different and diverse contributions. The objective of the publication and of this event is to raise awareness about makerspaces and the impact they can have on our students' learning and provide orientation to education, organization and institutions as well. So you've been probably already listening to us and getting a bit our take on a makerspace this morning if you were with us, but it's worth remembering what's in the essence of a makerspace, especially on how we define that in this publication, in this work. We are talking about a physical space, of course, where touching and making and tinkering, it's really at the core of the activities that I carry out, and where collaborative work is at the basis of any teaching and learning process. Of course, we are talking about those makerspaces that must in most cases are built and are operated within schools, so not necessarily the one that are outside the formal education context, but not exclusively, where creativity and innovation are really the skills that are most in the radar of whomever operates these spaces in terms of where we want to bring our students to develop. And thinking and making, of course, are the big categories of activities that would most of the time happen in these learning spaces. There are different types of makerspaces, and it's important also to be aware of the context. You will find in the publication, but we heard also from our colleagues from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission this morning, how this axis that goes from intentional learning to incidental learning to makerspace to maker program, how we can define different areas and how making a makerspace can be declined in different ways, going from physical space where the learning happened to more operating, making as a community value in a way within a local area, or making as a methodology again, compared to making as a life skill that it's worth to be mastered in a 21st century, really. And finally, what are the benefits overall? Why are we doing this? Because we're not doing it for the sake of doing it. The most important elements are here kind of condensed, but of course are much more expanded in the publication that I really encourage you to read. There's at different levels, of course, the decline differently from students. We, of course, focus, and we saw in the case studies how creativity and communication and problem solving was at the top of the skill set that students were developing. For teacher, the capability and the possibility to develop, to learn, and to work with professionals from the teaching community, but also from outside school, it was really quite transformative. For the class, the concept of collaboration, of teamwork, and the concept of multidisciplinary work was also absolutely something that has a very, very strong impact. And for the school, the capability to become an innovation hub, a leadership hub, a space for inclusion. Now, just in a few words, I just want to mention that what you will find in the guidelines, once again, are very practical suggestions. Here is an example of a step-by-step guide that would lead you from really deciding what type of makerspace you want to build and what purpose you want the space to serve, to really get into train the teachers that would ultimately use it and design the tasks that they would carry out with the students. And these two times and these two moments are very far one from the other, as you can imagine, because there's many intermediary steps that need to be taken. And all of this is described in the guidelines, and we hope it will really be useful for you to have a set of steps that would lead you to achieve your objective. And once again, we don't have all the answers, but we think all these chapters and components should lead you to at least ask the right questions. As an example, for the planning of a makerspace, these are also some elements that are considered in the guidelines: accessibility and inclusion, health and safety, training teachers, funding, sustainability. All these elements are actually mentioned and addressed in the publication, and of course important, and we'll go through some of them with our guests today as well. Another examples and another part of the study is dedicated instead of what you would do with this space. So it's not just about, of course, how to set it up, how to set up a makerspace, but it's also about what do I do with that? How do I use technology in a pedagogical way within this space? What kind of material can I leverage? What kind of ideas for lessons can I be inspired from? So you see, it's a comprehensive document, it's a comprehensive effort. it's there for you to take and use. So we hope it's a companion that would lead you to achieve your goals and your dreams in your schools. And on the other side, we also wish you to take a look and to really take inspiration from the case studies, which are really built on real examples, real schools that some of which are also with us today. And you will hear from them more specifically what it meant for them to set up such a space and what it means to use it for the benefit of their students. Now, this event is really not about presentations, so we want to get into a dialogue mode straight away. And the first panel is about active learning, because this is what mostly would happen within a makerspace and what we feel is so important. And it's also would like to refer to the school closure and what it meant in these months to shut down schools and have remote or hybrid teaching and learning, and how this has affected active learning. So I would like to invite on the virtual stage Madeleine Murray from the PDST, the Professional Development Service for Teachers in Ireland, Sara Dell'Area from Be Creative Program in Luxembourg, and Fernando Franco from the Directorate General for Education, the Ministry of Education in Portugal. So thank you very much for joining me today. And just a reminder for our audience instead, if you have any questions, comments, documents to share, please do use the chat, and we'll be pleased to pass your questions to our dear guests and speakers. So first of all, then I would leave the floor to our speakers to introduce themselves a bit better and the work they do within the organization, mainly the work the organization do. And I would like to start with you, Madeleine. Thank you once again for joining, and please, the floor is yours to introduce briefly the work you're doing and how Makerspaces fits within this work. I think you're muted still. Perfect.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, my name is Madeleine Murray, and I'm the National Coordinator for CPD Design for our online courses in PDST, Technology and Education. And I'm also part of the Interactive Classroom working group that worked on the production of these guidelines and case studies. And I have to say it was a real pleasure to work on them and to work with the two schools, Scoil Ida in Limerick and Alexandra College Junior School in Dublin. So we really enjoyed working with the schools and producing the case studies. And I must commend Pat and Mark in Scoil Ida in Limerick, and then Jennifer, who you'll meet shortly, from Dublin, on the great work they do in the Makerspaces. Also, just to say, in relation to those two schools, one of the things that was very clear to me when I was visiting those schools was the strong leadership in the schools and how that really supports the success of the Makerspaces. And, we saw in both cases that the Makerspace is part of the school's overall digital learning plan, and it was part of the school's vision for digital learning, and very much supported and promoted by leadership. Tommaso, do you want me to go ahead and just talk? Do you want to talk a little bit about activities in the Makerspaces, or?
Yeah, we can maybe do a quick tour with the other speakers, and then sure. And then we would definitely get back to that. But you already touched upon very interesting points and mentioned to leadership. It's something that we certainly come back to. I just want the audience to familiarize with the other speakers. So Fernando Franco from the Ministry of Education in Portugal. Fernando, could you also introduce yourself briefly and say a few words about DGE? Yes. And
hello, good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure also to see my colleagues from this interactive classroom working group, because we have a lot of meetings face to face, and now the meetings must be online. But as Madeleine Murray said, we have also some examples of this active learning. We have also some examples of FCLs. And when I do my presentation, not a presentation, but when I talk about the FCL and Makerspace in Portugal, we have some differences in numbers between one and another. But I think if in the FCL area we have good examples, in the Makerspaces we have also good examples, but not so many that we have in the FCL area. So it's a pleasure to be here and talk with all of the people who are saying that and seeing this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. It's a pleasure to have you here. For some reason, we cannot see your video. It's all black. I don't know if there's some. Perfect.
I forgot
to
security
device.
Okay.
Very good. Nice to see you now. Perfect. And then Sarah is joining us from Luxembourg. Sarah, can you tell us very shortly about you and B program? Thank you. Hi and welcome.
Yeah. Hi. I'm very happy to be here. It's a pleasure. I'm Sarah, and I'm one of the coordinators of Be Creative in Luxembourg. And we are very fortunate that it's one initiative of the Ministry of Education. And my part is to coordinate like the non-formal side of the Makerspaces. So we have our own Makerspace in Luxembourg City, which is called Base 1. And there we are, offering activities for kids after school, and also workshops for groups from youth centers and daycare structures and school groups. So I'm happy to be here and excited to hear from other people.
Thank you, Sarah, and happy to have you here. Thanks for joining. And I think indeed your organization and program complete and give another point of view into the Making and Makerspace movement somehow initiative. Madeleine, you were mentioning earlier about active learning and some examples. In fact, this is the most important element to some extent that would happen in Makerspaces. What's your experience? What have you seen that really struck your attention in Ireland? And you're muted still. I think you have to.
Sorry, you'd think I'd have learned by now. During the work on the Makerspaces, we would have observed a lot of very active learning, and I suppose there are so many examples, but I'll just give you just a flavour of some of them. In Limerick, in Scollida, I know they conducted a project which was around conserving water and identifying watering levels for plants using microbits. And so they managed to actually create a project that conserved water in the school, but while also engaging the children in active learning and in science and in maths. So that was a very successful project which had great levels of engagement. They also, I gathered, they have a system where they have programmed Christmas lights. So I think that's probably something that's coming in very useful at the moment, but Christmas tree lights being programmed to go on and off. So kind of simple activities, but very engaging and very active. And I know Jennifer will be talking to you shortly in relation to some of her activities in her Makerspace. But I think ones that kind of, that really struck a chord with me were, there was one which involved a visit to Dublin Zoo where they observed the animals in their habitat, and they conducted a project on biomes, having returned to school on that. And then they also produced step counters. So, I think that all of the activities we've seen and we've been told about, they tick so many boxes from a learning point of view. So they're not just science and maths, they're visual arts, they're literacy, digital literacy. The students are actively engaged, they're collaborating, communicating, problem solving. So every activity has so many elements to it, and it was just really a great privilege to be able to find out about these activities and see some of them in action, and there's great active learning going on in every case. That's
great, and in fact it's what I think it's worth to try to communicate and pass on to other schools and institutes that would like to really add a bit of those elements more. And that connects a bit to what I wanted to ask to Fernando, because you mentioned earlier about the innovative learning labs or the future classroom labs that have been built in Portugal, and how also that movement somehow, or that initiative joined forces with Makerspaces. How do you see that that active learning element being combined with future classroom labs compared to Makerspaces? Is there much integration between the two?
Okay. In fact, we in Portugal, we have almost 200 FCLs. This is a bottom-up process, because we in DGE we don't promote that, but the schools they create informal networks about them, and they speak among them about the advantages of have been some FCLs in the school. And in the schools that we have FCLs, we saw a lot of changes in methodology ways. The learning process is more active practice. There is no only one way, but it's more active when the schools have these FCLs. But for this, for the existence of these FCLs, it's very important the role of the headmasters. So most of these FCLs begin and was implemented because some of the headmasters have a vision about that, and they speak among them about the importance of that. We in DGE we follow some of these FCLs, and they invited us to go to schools and talk about the advantage of these spaces. But if in the FCL we have a lot of FCLs, a huge number, almost 200. In the area of the Makerspaces, as we know what is a Makerspaces, we have no such number. We have a lot of robotic clubs, and we have also a lot of good teachers who work in this area, and some of them are here because I saw Paulo Turcato and I saw Renato. They are example of excellent teachers who work with their students in the areas of robotics. So I don't see any relation between FCL and the Makerspaces, because if there is a relation between them, the number of Makerspaces must be more than we have. In Portugal, the DGE, we in the ministry, we promoted the robotics club, and some of them are Makerspaces, and some of them they are not real Makerspaces, but they do one thing very important. They work with students. They learn, and students learning by doing. So I think we must have a way to go and to join these let's call these two forces, the FCL with this huge number and with this methodology, and the Makerspaces. So if we do that, and I think this must be our goal. Join both of them, FCL and Makerspaces. We have some Fab Labs, but the Fab Labs are more integrated in the university, not in basic schools. So the DGE, we believe that these Makerspaces must do away. We must do away with schools in this area of the Makerspaces. So let's see if we could achieve that goal, join the force of the FCL and the Makerspaces.
I think that would be advisable, kind of, or something that we would hope for in a way. The two initiatives kind of tend to go towards the same direction, at least for what concerns active learning, and the capacity to link with other networks and initiatives. It's really something that we're learning more and more, that it's really fundamental for the thriving of these initiatives.
Yes.
Sarah, you are actually very active, and you mentioned in the non-formal education sector. We saw many labs opening their doors to their community and vice versa. What's your take on that? What did you see in Luxembourg that really made you hope for the better for the future in this domain?
Yeah, it's nice to see that more and more makerspaces are opening, mostly in schools. So we are the complementary makerspace in the non-formal setting. So we have one which is open for everyone. So you don't have to be like a student of the campus, or yeah, it's just open for everyone between 8 and 30 years old. So it's quite nice. Everything is for free, so there are no social injustices, and we see that kids are like really interested to come to the makerspace because it's their hobby and it's their interest, and we are very happy to give them the opportunity to fulfill their needs and their creativity. And like we work with many coaches too, so they facilitate the activities in the makerspace. We have like two main missions. We have workshops on the one side, so smaller kids like 8 to 10 can have a taste into the makerspace and what are the possibilities, which is like really nice. And along that, the educators and the teachers see what is possible, and maybe they take something out from it and into their structure, which is like really nice, and the exchange is really good with them. And then the core of our work is actually the walk-in. So we have open hours during the weeks where youngsters can come and go whenever they want, and there are always coaches who are there to just help them out with their own projects. So there are many children and youngsters who come and they have an idea, and maybe they don't know the techniques or the material to get to that project and to the goal. But along the way, they can learn so much from other peers or the coaches, and they can just explore the possibilities of the makerspace, which is amazing to see, because we see the development, and yeah, it's amazing what they can do. And parents are also getting more engaged and more interested, and they bring the kids to the makerspace, and they are just like blown away by the possibilities. So yeah,
very good. And I think, as we were mentioning before, and
I think we lost Tommaso. Apologies for that. I think he will connect very soon again. But let me see. Yeah. Apologies for that. 1 second.
okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas.
Yes. Sorry, now the system just shut down, but I'm already back. And as I was mentioning, the connection with professionals from outside school, it's something that, of course, it's certainly very fruitful. Now I would like to move all the speakers to a bit of an uncomfortable position. We have to talk about the situation we're living in. We've been forced to teach remotely in most of the countries for several months. Active learning wasn't the thing that would come most natural to teachers while they were teaching remotely. Madeleine, what have you observed? Were there any ways to keep some of this active learning alive, and what have you learned from this process and this situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, it has been a very challenging few months, so we certainly can't not talk about it. I suppose, you know, what we have seen here in Ireland, teachers have just been brilliant. We have seen a huge amount of sharing of practice, sharing of resources online, both within our online courses here in PDST, but also on Twitter. Twitter has become a very popular platform for teachers, and there was a hashtag #EdShareIE that was set up during school closures earlier this year, and I know that has really gained a lot of traction amongst teachers. So a lot of ideas and practice being shared. I know also, you know, activities have been created, what are called kind of COVID-friendly activities, because while the schools are now back in Ireland and they're back in their school buildings, but they are socially distancing and wearing masks, and that provides its own challenges from the point of view of active learning and collaboration. I know our website Skullnet has done a lot of curation of active learning COVID-friendly activities that can be undertaken during this time. I suppose just some of the things that we have seen that, you know, where teachers have really tried to overcome the issues. We've seen a lot of blended and flipped learning approaches to teaching. So where teachers and actually in some cases students are also doing it, are creating instructional videos that are accessed from home, and you know, it allows for vulnerable students to be taught remotely and for activities to be done in that way. We've also seen remote experiments, so kitchen science, and that was very popular when the schools were closed, but some of that has continued in this flipped learning model where students, if they can't do experiments in school, which is the case in many schools, that they can actually conduct them from home, record themselves, create a digital story and submit that. So so that has been an effective way of continuing the active learning. Some other practices we've seen, you know, we've seen a lot of really good collaboration going on using digital tools like Jamboard, Mural, Padlet, so a lot of, I suppose, a lot of outside the box teaching on behalf of teachers, and a lot of really good practices, but that have been enabled by technology. But that's not to say that it's not a really challenging environment to be teaching in at the moment, and it is a real headache for teachers to try and keep things going in the way that they could before COVID.
Indeed, and we saw also this morning, of course, some of the learning labs or some of the makerspaces that we visited virtually, how they had, of course, to respect all the sanitary precautions, yet having children and teachers working together. Maybe we can ask the same question to Fernando as well. So, Fernando, have you seen some effort in Portugal to keep alive that active learning practices, and has the whole pandemic led to rethink a bit the concept of learning spaces, of makerspaces especially, or not?
Okay, I forgot to mention in the first question, we in DG, we support some robotic clubs with some money, not all of money, of course, but when this robotics club have some criteria, we support them, and so if we don't have a big network of makerspaces, we have in the schools a big network of robotics. Maybe some of them goes a step further and transform in a makerspaces. About what happened in these times of pandemic. Some of the schools when we have the confinement, the lockdown, and with only learning in distance learning, this is very difficult to implement it, of course. But in this year, in this school year, we in Portugal we have presence. We have the students present in the schools. So most of the schools, if they have FCL, or if they have robotics club, they work in these places, as we see in the morning. Pedro show what they do in Freixo. We have some other examples that the schools go in that way. Like I forget to mention in the earlier part of my intervention, the Rio Maior. It's a good example of a school they begin with an FCL, and then in this precise moment they have Makerspaces, they have music lab, they have a fab lab, they have everything about this kind of new active learning. In the part of training teachers for this use of these spaces, the teacher training in Portugal, we have a lot of experience, because we have 91 teacher training in Portugal in the area of education, and they promote a lot of teacher training in the area of the digital. But these training centers, they don't have great dynamics in promoting teacher training in makerspaces. Most of these makerspaces training is informal. We have teachers who work very well in these spaces. Like I said earlier, Renato or Paulo Turcato or Liliana, they are good teachers in these areas, and so they implement in their schools an informal training about this kind of work. And there are a lot of other teachers from other disciplines interested in learn how they could do some learning by doing in math or in Portuguese or in history, because some of these areas are very important, and this kind of training is important. The local teacher training. And sometimes a group of teachers, they join, and they with the help of the headmaster, they go into this teacher training in Portugal, and they try to implement it, not in the school, but in the cluster of schools, this kind of training, training for work in makerspaces. So in my opinion, the teacher training centers in Portugal, they have in that moment they have a small number of training in this area, but in the schools there are a lot of teachers who they do a lot of informal training of other teachers in this area of the makerspaces.
Thank you, Fernando, and I think it's encouraging to hear that you're so much and so well connected with many schools, many training centers, many individual teachers, and that you can appreciate also the great job they are doing. And indeed, it's often the work of great leaders somehow, or very inspired and enthusiastic teachers.
Yes. They do a very good work in the field. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks a lot. And the same area I wanted to discuss briefly with Sarah as well. You've been organizing a lot of activities, especially right now within Be Creative. Why you felt was so important to keep going, and how are you managing it to keep it together somehow?
Yeah, when everything closed, it was really hard to connect to the youngsters, because we had the feeling that they were in front of the screen like all day, so they didn't want to have their free time in front of the screen. So we were like really happy when we could reopen in July and could stay open until now. So that's great. And we felt the need in the youngsters, and also the parents, they told us that they feel the need to bring the kids to the Makerspace because they missed it. And for the past few weeks, it's always full. Like, children are just happy that it's open, that they can share experiences and just be together, even though we have restrictions with the mask, of course, and all the sanitary guidelines. But it's just a platform for exchange and community, and that's the most important thing. And that's why we are trying to keep it going and bring in some sense of normality back, because we feel that they are just free for a few hours, just do their own project, and it's really nice to see. That's what keeps us going, and all the coaches, they are just happy to work there and just interact with people because that's what was missing all that time, actually having interactions with people. Yeah.
Very good. Well, we wish you all the best for the success of your current initiative, and we hope this can be also a good wish for all schools across Europe. In a way, maybe we can expect that kind of bounce in the new normality that we will see in face of us, in front of us, and indeed, maybe we would have the chance to give more attention and more prominence to this active learning practices and initiative. Very good. Thank you very much for taking part to this panel. Unfortunately, our time is up. We could discuss about this for hours, but now we are also leaving the floor to other experiences. Thank you, Sarah, Frank, Fernando, and Madeleine for being with us today, for contributing to the event. And if you have any questions for them, of course, feel free to use the chat. They will stay with us a bit longer, so please do chat with them if you like. Thanks again. Now I would virtually move to the next panel, and that's why I would like to invite on the stage our next contributors and panelists: Hermann Morgenbesser for the FLL Wien in Austria, Jennifer McCary from the Alexandra College Junior School in Ireland, and Mark Deutsch from Be Creative Luxembourg as well. Thank you very much for joining. It's much appreciated. Now, in this session, we would like instead to get a step further into practice. All of these all of these speakers, they are actually daily working with Makerspaces, or if not daily, very often, and they are responsible for running these spaces and the learning activities that would happen within them. So I would ask each of them to introduce briefly what they do in relation to making and in their Makerspaces, so you can also kind of get a hint of other examples. And then again, if you have any questions on something that you hear from them, please do use the chat. They will be very happy to specify or to give you more hints, tips, and tricks about how to set up and use a Makerspace. Hermann, we can start with you. Maybe can you just introduce us a bit into your world and the making you're making happen in Austria?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, then welcome. Thank you very much for being here. I'm Hermann Morgenbesser, working at the Future Learning Lab Vienna, which is more or less a follower of Future Classroom in Brussels. And what we have done in the last year is, after having taking part on the study of the ICWG, we were starting with a project called Edo Makerspace, which is Makerspaces create for 15 schools in our district in Vienna. And with this district or with this school, we have now an experience of half a year. When we were starting up in March, we were bringing in them into the community of practice, which was the starting of a coaching session with all of them. So we were having a key event in March, and then we were bringing in the 1K Makerspaces, which is a symbol for 1,000 euro Makerspaces. We were offering them, this is a laser cutting machine, this is a vinyl plotting machine, and a 3D printer, and something else, which was the starting material or the starting equipment for these spaces. And for now, after this half year, they all have done a lot of activities. They are 14 or 15 are also in now in September to November. And what we are doing is we are coaching them in curricula. So we try to create scenarios. These scenarios are placed in schools, in the makerspaces they have created, and our team is coaching them directly in firstly using the technology, and secondly, creating lessons with students. We are starting with primary. We have 4 primary schools in. Then secondary 1, there are again 4 of them, and there are some vocational and some secondary 2. The main idea is to create stuff for leading into making, but we also are involved into tinkering, which is working with different tools. And at the other end, we are interested in doing stitching, turtle stitch, which is also an idea of going into gendering, because a lot of these spaces are missing girls, I would say. And the end of the project will be in February, and the follow-up project is already done. We will start with another group in next 15 in March 21. And so we have 50 schools in Favoriten, this district of Vienna, which is, if you would take the people, the third big city of Austria. So there's a lot of people in, and there are 50 schools, and we hope that the project will turn over to the others. I wonder if I can hand out my teaser, but maybe I can do it later on. Thank you for the first.
Thank you, Herman. And yes, the connection doesn't seem very fast, so maybe with the video wouldn't necessarily work, but maybe yes later, or you can also share it on the chat for the audience to take a glimpse of it. But it's very, very interesting and impressive, the work you're doing, and the fact that it's really kind of happening, as we were mentioning it in the morning, somehow at the systemic level, so creating really a good environment for teachers to innovate within. That's great. And again, if you have questions for Herman, please do ask. In the meanwhile, I would like to invite Jennifer instead to introduce briefly herself and the experience from her school. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Lovely to meet you all. My name is Jennifer McGarry, and I am teaching in Dublin in Ireland. I have a short PowerPoint presentation. I'm not sure it would now be the appropriate time to share it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, super.
I'll stop sharing mine so you can.
Thank you. I just have some pictures in, and I just thought it might help people get an idea of what we have going on in our school. It's quite
people
basic.
Would love to take a look at what's happening indeed.
Okay, so second now. Can everybody see that?
Well, I can. Yeah. Yes.
So it's
Yes, it works.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So lovely to meet you all this evening. I'm just going to give you a brief run over our school and then how we went about setting up the Makerspace in our school. So I'm a teacher here at Alexandra College. I've been here 4 years, and before that I worked in industry, nothing related to teaching, but there's lots of skills that I bring from that into the Makerspace area. I'm the e-learning coordinator for the school, and I'm also in charge of the after-school clubs that we run here as part of the after-school program. Our school is medium-sized. We're an all-girls school, and last year we got our Digital School of Distinction, which is an award given an initiative by the Irish government to try and encourage schools to practice good use of technologies and creative use of technologies in schools. And we're very fortunate to have an on-site IT specialist in our school, so if we have any problems with the equipment, he's a great support to us. And there's a strong focus in our school on STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art and maths, and the development of the Makerspace. So developing our Makerspace here in Alex. In Alex, it's a Froebelian school, which basically means that there's a lot of emphasis on holistic learning and a hands-on approach. And this lends itself very well to the culture of a Makerspace, which obviously, as we know, puts a lot of focus and balance on making and crafting and doing. And then when you tie in the element of technology in it, we pose the question to the students, like, you know, what are you creating that technology for? Like, how is it going to improve life for humans or animals or plants? And like the example that Madeline gave there of the school in Schoolija, creating that conservation system of water, it's obviously very relevant, very related to real life. So from our basic philosophy there, based in the holistic approach, we create activities. And when we create the activities, we go back to that idea of what we want the kids to know. So, you know, the cognitive aspect, you know, what facts they need, what mental models they need to succeed, and what they're crafting then, you know, they're making, they're doing something, they're constructing, they're tinkering. And then I suppose character, and that would be the empathic side, so connecting with people. This leads then to them developing competence in various areas, which is basically just, I'd summarize it, I suppose, as computational thinking, seeing the broader picture, problem solving in lots of different aspects. From our philosophy and our creating of activities, that's basically our Makerspace. It's what we want our Makerspace to do and achieve short-term and long-term, and it gives us then a set of identifiable learning outcomes which we can capitalise on when we're setting our plans in place. So this here is our Makerspace. As you can see, there's nothing very fancy about it or anything. This table over here is where I would lay out materials for the girls. Our school's all girls, I should say students, sorry. And they can come and they can browse the different materials, resources, largely recyclable items, and different bits and pieces. Over here is where we have the where the pointer is now, is where the laptops are kept. We're fortunate to have one for each school, or each student, sorry. We're an Apple school, and that's just another close-up of the Makerspace and the bits and pieces in it. As you can see, that was taken on a very good day. It doesn't always look like that. We've also added this cabinet here again, I suppose, to provide for extra storage space. And here are boxes. We have loads of different boxes for keeping the different items of the students because of COVID and that. So the usual running of our Makerspace is location in a general classroom, not my own classroom. I will go in there to do my classes. We have the Makerspace classes every Monday evening, but I also incorporate Makerspace philosophies into my teaching. It's open to all, so any teachers are welcome to use the space, and one person, myself, is in control of the supplies. Modifications for COVID is one student, one device where possible. We sanitize the units in all the classrooms. Items such as microbits and makeys are kept sealed in lunchboxes, so each child just has that one lunchbox with the USB, with the makey, with all the crocodile clips and whatnot. And then the room is all cleaned in between uses as well. So our lessons are created based upon a variety of different things. So we have the digital learning framework is another initiative by the Irish government, again, to help schools and support them in embedding effective digital technologies into their plans and into their running of their school. So we would have at the start of the year set that up and chat about what we want, you know, what outcomes we wanted to achieve and different aspects of leadership and management. And we'd also draw upon so we'd have our plan set in place for the year, and then we'd also draw upon the Irish National Primary Curriculum to make sure that the technology we're using are rooted in the strands and learning objectives of that national curriculum. We also sometimes base our lessons thematically. Maybe it's Code Week, maybe it's Space Week, and we could do something different. And we also are very interested in collaborations with other staff. Our equipment and technology, we're very fortunate. We have a vast range of resources here. We have a super support network in place, which is great. We have iPads, microbits, makey, spheros. We really are very lucky to have such an array of equipment. I found that training and support is so important when it came to making our Makerspace work, and also getting feedback and suggestions from colleagues. So even though it might be seen to be to do with coding and computational thinking, which I think some teachers can find a little bit off-putting because it's a new area and they might not know a lot about it, keeping everyone in the loop really does foster a really good positive aspect towards it, and it's very encouraging because other teachers will then try and start it up as well. So basically, just to summarize that, when you're starting off with your Makerspace, I think it's best if you try and keep it small, keep it simple, like just even don't worry about having long-term or short-term goals, just maybe up to Halloween you want to do something, up to Christmas you'd like to do something. Identifying a craft store that can supply free materials is really, really useful because you'll go through so many materials with the girl or the students, like testing and tinkering and doing different things. And definitely connect with others in your school or something like this where you see what's going on in the wider world, and attending webinars and whatnot. So thank you for listening, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat.
Wonderful, thank you, Jennifer, for these examples, and to anybody, if you have any doubts or curiosity, feel free to ask on the chat. What I take away from your short introduction is really this sense of also kind of tackle that type of activities holistically and find what would be the impact of this in society in the environment. I think it's very, very interesting to find a purpose and a place for whatever is done in school within the real context that where students and pupils live. Thanks so much. Very, very inspiring. Our third guest for this session is Mark Teutsch, if I'm pronouncing your last name well. Mark is one of the teacher and experts that you would find if you would read the case studies, especially the one from Luxembourg. Mark, would you like to introduce yourself a bit more and maybe telling us what you're doing and how Makerspaces are contributing to Luxembourgish young people development?
Yes, thank you very much, Tommaso. Well, maybe to my person, I am a teacher for over 20 years now in computer science, and I'm also the founder and co-founder of the 3 largest hackerspaces in Luxembourg. So I come from a hacking environment, the guys that do not steal your money but invent your future products. And I found this aspect of creating stuff and turning things around to something different really interesting for schools. So I tried to apply this methodology to a pedagogical environment. And as such, I founded Luxembourg's first Makerspace in 2011, which was based in my own school here in Luxembourg. And I took that aspect and that approach to the Ministry of Education. I had a TEDx talk in Luxembourg as well. And the ministry found the approach interesting, at least interesting enough to carry on with the project for a few years. So we started off with 6 Makerspaces for 2 years, one of which was base 1. So I'm actually responsible for the formal content, as Sarah, my colleague, is responsible for the non-formal content. So we began with 6 Makerspaces, and you have to know that Luxembourg counts around more or less 40 high schools. And as we speak today, we have 37 Makerspaces up and running. Well, kind of due to COVID restrictions, we have some trouble going there. Making people touch everything is a bit of a problem right now, but I assume that many of you guys are experiencing the same problem. So we founded that project, and we found really a lot of people interested in making, and we see that students or visitors would like to touch stuff, and it's really what I've been looking on as a teacher is that we don't give them neither the time nor the resources to touch. Everything is fast. It has to be going, fast learning, quick competences, go, go, go. But we don't take the time to teach the essential stuff, to break stuff, to try something. And especially in sciences, we have a large application field for this approach. And I was tempted to apply this into schools. So what I did is I put the Hackerspace approach of share everything, your knowledge, your know-how, your projects, your everything with everyone. But of course, we cannot leave a laser cutter open to students because it's too dangerous. So I put in some mentorship. That means that the teacher is not really the one leading the class, but the teacher is more the responsible person. So he or she can give advice on how to pilot different items or infrastructure, part of the infrastructure of the Makerspace. He or she could also be responsible to hold some introduction workshops like Introduction to Soldering or to computational thinking, coding, etc. that actually kind of gets the interest of the students woken up so that they will continue and come back with their own project ideas. So the teacher is not really the teacher, but it's more like a guide. And I really emphasize this. This is actually the only condition that we have when opening a makerspace in Luxembourg, is that you don't turn your makerspace in the classroom. That's something that we don't want. We really want to break the paradigm here. We really want to break the environment. And we actually tell teachers to put sofas in their makerspaces, fridges with drinks. And we really push on the free fact that Sarah already said some time ago. Everything for us needs to be free, so everyone can really attend the makerspace at his or her own rate without being able to, without having to, finance anything of whatever he or she works on. So if the visitor would like to take home a microcontroller with his or her project, that's fine. He or she will not pay anything, as the Ministry of Education provides us, lucky enough, with enough funds.
Thanks a lot, Mark. It's very inspiring, and I liked also from the case study that you started from this hacking perspective, the idea of really taking something that exists and give it another purpose, transform it, change it, and it's completely fitting the idea of making young people being aware that they can do that with technology, especially, but with anything. So they just don't have to just buy stuff. They can really create and hack things. Brilliant. And we'll get back to that. In the meanwhile, maybe again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I would like to go back to Herman, as possibly many of the people that are listening these stories may think, okay, it's complicated, it requires a lot of training, a lot of materials, a lot of maybe resources. But what do you think? You have a lot of experience. What were the main challenges that were encountered in Austria, and how you overcame that?
So something. I mean, can you whatever happened?
There's still an echo. I don't know if somebody is not muted, but it should.
Yeah, let's see.
Still.
Yeah.
Let me check if we can find what is causing the echo. It seems that everybody are muted.
Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Now it works fine. Yes.
Okay. Whatever happens. Thank you very much. So, what about overcoming the troubles? So we had a community of practice. That is very important, and you have to talk to the headmasters. And you need, I would say, in this direction, 2 or 3 people in each school, helping, working together, creating the space and putting the space into the curriculum. That's what we have seen. If you don't have a direct line to the headmaster as an expert coming from outside, it is not possible to work with students. Even in case of COVID, it was difficult too, but we had the option to go in. And secondly, it is the fear of teachers, to blame themselves in the classroom. So what we are doing, we are mentoring. Yes, we are sending the coaches for the first time, and then we brought them into an in-service. So to show them how to work with the machines, how to create the first elements, and we had something like a maker cafe where they could learn to chat, to work, and it is absolutely important in this group of people to bring them into the community, see that others from other school types or from other schools have the same issues to solve. And the next thing I would say, what's important is to find spaces in the curriculum if you want to do it in schools. So if you go to the primary, there must be a space where the teachers, the parents, and the students are accepting that this is work that looks like the classical curriculum. So we had handicraft as a possibility to bring in a lot of stuff, but it is also mathematical issues maybe that are to solve. You can do it as a storytelling sequence. Whatever you may do, it is necessary to talk to the local authorities. And at the other end, it was good to have some, the Chamber of Work in Austria, some professionals in the back that are organizing the simple things like how to get the staff into schools, how to work with the teachers in the private. And so it is a group of people working together, and then it works. If there is just one teacher in one school, it is not really possible to get for longer than 14 days.
Very good, very clear. And also because it's, as Mark was mentioning, I think these spaces, it's something that it's very much self-led and organized, and it might be new to students, but it's certainly also new to teachers as well. So there must be this kind of community that support and encourage each other to really make a good use of these learning spaces, and maybe also to hear Jennifer's opinion. So also in relation to the specific activities that you carry out in your school, that includes a lot of arts in this STEAM concept. How do you do that, and how teachers really jump on board if they do, or they need some additional incentive and training compared to using other spaces, more traditional?
So yes, the collaborative element, I think, within a makerspace and within a STEAM environment is really very important. You can learn so much from working with the other teachers, and I think that the students also benefit greatly from seeing that there isn't like any boundary between the subjects, and then they get a chance to break it down. Like I very much agree with what Mark was saying there about the idea of breaking things down and just kind of getting right down to the nitty gritty, and then seeing what comes out of that. And in doing collaborations, especially through the visual arts, there's so much opportunity for that, and it gets the students to see about the wider world. Like for example, I'm actually doing another project with European Schoolnet at the moment to do with aerospace resources, and it's all about flight and that, and it's super interesting. The girls are loving testing the learning scenarios. But that then inspired me to strike up a collaboration with our art teacher here in Alex, and she is doing an investigative process through art, looking at the textures of the feathers, looking at birds, how in their natural environment, sketching them outdoors when they're flying, and then they're making little clay models. And then I'm working on the science side, investigating the flight, that element of it, and then the girls are working in Tinkercad to create unusual flying machines inspired by their investigation into the birds. So things like that, it just gives them, I suppose, another way of looking at the world, which they really enjoy. And then other teachers see that, and they're not as scared by it as well when they see everyone kind of working together and that the support is there for it, which is super. Another project, again, what I was doing, I think Madeline mentioned earlier there, was about the one where I took the girls last year to the zoo. We did a big project on biomes. We then did different genre writing. We Then did a green screen project where the girls they made little biomes, like biomes in a box, took pictures, used that as our green screen background, and then put them into their little pictures. And then from there, what we did was we spoke about, the danger of, climate change and the pollution that's going on in the world. They put rubbish into their biomes, so they were surrounded by the rubbish, and they spoke about how technology could help them fix that. And we would employ then microbits to monitor like the light and the temperature and little things like that. So there is a lot of, I suppose, through engagement with the visual arts, there's a lot of chance for the kids to explore different aspects of it and to see it in a practical sense, and for it to be tangible, for them to be able to make stuff and break it down and make it back up again.
Thanks a lot for that insight. I think indeed it's very inspiring what you're doing, and I hope really our audience also take a look at a case study and get some additional inspiration. And Mark, by the way, your presentation and your idea about, of course, having the teachers letting go a bit and becoming more of a guide and less of his structures has been very well received. In fact, that's kind of a overarching approach where we talk about makerspaces. It's very important. I was thinking also about something that you mentioned, the time of breaking stuff, of making stuff and trying things. It's absolutely important. And indeed, it's not something that it's so cannot easily be integrated in the regular time of a lesson. So I guess you would give access to the space beyond school hours or to other space to students. How does that work? There are some practicalities that can be suggested to other coordinators of similar spaces as well in Europe?
Well, actually, for our case now, it really depends on the school. We have schools that feature something called open space, which means that they open their school after hours. But this can be complicated because each school is different, and the makerspace is not necessarily located direct as a public access. So you have to go through the whole school and before you attend the room where the makerspace is situated. So that's, for some headmasters, a problem. However, we have like half a dozen schools that offer this, that have this opportunity of having doors straight to the public access. And what we see there is that there are parents coming, trying to observe it, but also representatives from industry. So we have like regular visits from, we have this satellite company called SES in Luxembourg, which is pretty big, and they send some people here. Here in Ettelbruck we have Goodyear that also used to send some engineers there. Well, I'm talking pre-COVID, of course, because this is not possible for the moment. But the concept of having a semi-public space like that with an open exchange is something that is very interesting. However, if I may just add something that Herman used to say a few minutes ago about talking to your headmaster. I'm so sorry, but I totally disagree on that, because they are actually convinced by attendance. And what I've learned is that the teacher should be empowered. He or she should be taken his or her hobby and develop it in kind of a sandbox feature in that makerspace. So if somebody likes biology, for example, and likes cultivating plants and stuff, and has developed a project with temperature sensing, water feeding, and so on, that teacher should actually develop this in the makerspace. And this will bring interest, and interest carries spectators, and spectators bring projects, projects bring people, and the headmaster will go, why are 25 people sitting next to your room? What are they doing there? And then you can tell your headmaster, well, we can feature this, for example, on an open doors to make the school more public and bring in some visitors. We have learned that actually at the beginning, we started promoting rooms and infrastructure, but this was the wrong way. In Luxembourg, I'm going to make myself very unpopular here, but in Luxembourg, cash is not a real topic in schools. I'm sorry, guys, but that's the truth. We have a lot of money, but it's not the solution. You can't do anything with money. If you have a huge laser cutter and nobody's operating it, it's not worth buying it. You need the people, and you have to feature the people. And in order to nourish the people, to make them feel something is moving them, we want to emphasize the interests of our teachers. And we've learned that French teacher can also program computers. Even you wouldn't think that's logic, but these people are kind of in their element using their hobby, and they bring that to the space, and they bring something that they are interested in, and they spark interest. And that's what keeps the spaces running. So that's why I have to say that infrastructure and budget comes, for me at least in the Luxembourg scene, at the very last of the items.
Thank you, Mark. And I think indeed when we talk about innovative practices or approaches, there's often this dichotomy. Say, do we formalize it? Do we try to kind of put in a box or structure it as much as we can, or we try to leverage its unicity, which is this engagement, this curiosity that sparks, and these outcomes that can lead to, so in a different way. Okay, very, very interesting perspective. Of course, I would leave to Herman eventually to add something about the need in Austria to actually talk to the school leader,
yes,
if you like.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to make it clear. We don't go to the headmaster saying, okay, we want to work with your teachers. No, it is that they are in the back office, so that they allow to work creatively. So we are not interested in bringing the headmasters online. We are working with teachers, and so this is just a door opener, not more than that. And I fully agree. If you go to the headmaster saying, what do we do? They are coming up with ideas you can maybe not really use in the daily work. But so the main people we are talking with are the teachers, clear for that. But as there are 15 in parallel running in one district, you can't do it with the local authorities. That's it, because you will get troubles maybe if you do that in different places, and you don't line it out as an activity that is done from different places. That's the main idea. But we don't really wait until the headmasters come in.
Thank you, Herman. And yeah, I think a nice conclusion of the morning session was really about something that is connected, I believe. So how do we create an easy environment for teachers or experts or professionals to work within and innovate and bring forward these activities? And that needs to happen, or should happen at structural level, making it let's say, not even more burdensome or hard or complex for teachers to innovate in their contexts. Now we are already over time, and it has been a pleasure to talk with all of you. But I would still maybe, I don't know, maybe can you summarize in 2 words, each of you, what is your tips, your tip number 1 to whomever is listening to us, and then we would close this panel as well, unfortunately, unless from the audience we don't have other questions. Who wants to start?
Well, maybe I can. There's just one tip: don't be afraid.
Okay.
Go ahead and try something. What can possibly go wrong? I mean, you can we teach learn or trial and error. Just do it. There's no such thing as bad ideas. Thank you for listening, and I'm willing to answer all questions.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thanks. I'll just add to Mark's point there, I suppose, with my little tip. I think, yeah, absolutely. Like Mark said, just go for it, have fun. And I think to go in with a very loose idea of what you want to happen and then kind of take the lead from your students. You might go in and say, right, we're going to do whatever. And then next thing you'll realize, say you're going to do a project, I don't know, on say I mentioned birds, and the kids suddenly get like really enamored with the idea of a seagull, so they just want to just focus on seagulls and do something absolutely crazy with the seagulls. Like, go with it, just run with like the total different tangent it takes, and then you'll have a lot of fun with your students, and you'll totally get more and more people on board if you just kind of take that route.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Herman, do you want to say a couple of words as well?
Just one sentence. Be creative and run the thing. That's it.
Wonderful. Thanks so much to the three of you. It has been a pleasure to connect with you as well, and brilliant work you've done also on the publication and the case studies. So I really recommend to everybody that is listening to us to go and check them out. The links is on the chat, but it will be around as well. And I will not add anything more. It has been a long day, so I wish you a wonderful evening, and thank you for spending some time with us. It has really been a pleasure to really have this chance. And stay safe, and I hope to see you soon in person and work together in some of those wonderful projects. Thanks a lot, and take care.